Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Newsround for Anfield Index. It is Monday, the 10th of March, ahead of a huge week for the Reds, isn't it? League sort of fades a little bit, and we start to focus on cups, both domestic and European. There is so much to talk about. There's so much to rewind back to last week, isn't there? Even yesterday, there is a million things which we need to talk about and discuss. And I'm Dave Davis, coming to you from a pretty cold and windy Edinburgh, to be honest. Very, very different from what we were getting at Anfield at the weekend. I was there. It was about 17, 18, glorious sun. It really was. But it's all great, isn't it, Reds? We always start our news round asking, how are we? And to be fair, this week, for the second time in a row, it may have been a little bit different at half time, don't get me wrong, but we are all living in a Johnny Heitinger wonderland, aren't we? In fact, you do wonder, actually, the way he's going at the moment, if other clubs, maybe ones who are struggling, who've spent 700 million, might even be casting an envious glance towards Johnny Heitinger and the magic that he weaves. I mean, it's strange in a way if you go back to Saturday 3-1, and when you level up all the stats against Southampton, overall, we battered them, didn't they? The XG, the field tilt, the possession, every single stat you can name, we dominated them. However, when you talk about how we're feeling, it was a little bit different at half time. In the stadium, there was a bit of flatness, thinking, are we just looking a little bit tired? Is things starting to catch up with us? And people have been desperately trying to give this narrative, hadn't they? Even going back to that Dougie Critchley one about, I'd be worried if I was Liverpool. And then half time comes, and Arne Slot goes through and changes three of them, makes it clear he's not happy. Out they come out with a purpose, and they blow Southampton away in that second half. There was no doubt who deserved to win it. And I think most of us, if we are being deadly honest, expected the gap to be the same. I'd almost got into that routine of being, oh, it's 13 points. That sort of numbers become nailed on, hasn't it? But we are starting Monday, the 10th of March, with a 5-point gap at the top of the Premier League. And I watched that game. It was pretty dross. I mean, it was dross until sort of Bruno, and we'll talk about that free kick, puts that free kick in and it finishes 1-1. But the more and more I watched it, I was like, how have these even been considered title challengers? Like, genuinely, how? Avo the third there saying, morning, yeah, number 20 is coming, 5 more wins, sorry, but I think 4 will do. Is where we're starting to think about Avo, and I'll come on to that very shortly. But so much to like when you just look at that league table. Now, I'll come on to the narrative that the media are desperately trying to spin around it at the moment. But if you do start to think, as Avo's put there, where are we going to win it? That is a natural question that you started to ask yourself this week. Probably last week a little bit, but definitely 100% with a 15-point gap this week. Where are we going to win it? And you start to look down and you think, obviously there's the derby when we come back from international break. Arsenal have got Chelsea away, a few tough ones. And then you start scrolling down, think Fulham, no. It's the weirdest thing to say. But actually, I think these two, Leicester away and Spurs at home, that's where I honestly think it's done in April before May. And Leicester, listen, we all hate Leicester. Their fans are vile, aren't we? We know what they sing, we know what they chant. And also, there'd be some poetic justice about winning it there, wouldn't there? Because if you think about it honestly, do you remember that season when it was the Boxing Day and we won 4-0? That was seen as the big test of the credentials in 1920. So there would be a poetic justice, and also to send Leicester back down because we can't stand them. Spurs, it's more just about, I don't know, it just feels right, doesn't it? that Sunday, the 27th of April, before we go into May, boxed off the title, which seems absolutely crazy to say. And Red Armchair supporter there saying, we all love the fact it is when, not if. There's no real if about it, is there anymore? I think a lot of people started to clock yesterday, finally, what we've been saying, that Arsenal should be looking down instead of looking up. But yeah, I can't get around Spurs. That's just the one for me. I could be wrong, but yeah, throw your thoughts in the chat panel or wherever. What are you thinking, Reds? Where are we going to win it? The other things, and I talked a little about narratives there. There's a few things building. So we'll deal with this. Gotta love an Arsenal fan conspiracy, haven't you? They are funny. And the number, having been 13, that's now extended to 15, the new number in our psyche is 11.2, because that is the number of yards. Apparently, that free kick was taken from yesterday. And I'm not really here to cheer a United, goal like that, but just funny, isn't it? That now that is the new thing on the docket that Arsenal fans can point to. So if you think about their list, 11.2 yards goes on the list, along with injuries, as though other clubs haven't had those. And remember how that didn't matter when we've had them in previous years, like when was it? Oh, yeah, last season. Do you remember how it didn't matter? That didn't count at all when we had the injuries, but that's high on Arsenal fans' docket. Joining alongside other things, the striker and the fact they didn't sign a striker, it would have been all different. Does anyone remember when Arsenal had all their players pretty much fit, how we were 9 points clear? 9 points clear, weren't we? And even when they had all their players fit, they just looked a bit ropey, Arsenal, this season. There seems to have been this myth almost that Arsenal have been brilliant, but it's the injuries that have robbed them. And we know it's myth. We know, as Harpo Third says there, it is excuses FC. There's no two ways about it. But it's just funny, isn't it? That, and then if they've got this striker as though, and I like Ollie Watkins, for instance, as a player, but he was the one, wasn't he? And all these links to different players. As if Arsenal got one striker, it would have just changed the whole outlook of the Premier League and everything would have been different. No. Just absolutely not true, as we all know. We're seeing at the moment, they create bog all. And in fact, when they took that 17-year-old lad off Wanyeri, yeah, it's such a myriad of excuses, narratives, as I'm calling it, that are coming out. And there's two more even on the docket. See Gary Neville's comment yesterday around the whole, Arsenal are better, or last season were better than Liverpool of this season. It's just that they've dropped off. They missed their chance. I mean, Arsenal finished with 89 points last season. This Liverpool side, if you just check back to the Premier League table, can still finish actually with 97. So, A, how do you know they're better? And B, it's just Gary Neville nonsense. But drink in the tears, people. Drink it in, because they're all coming out at the moment. It just don't get upset by it. Just absorb it all. It all just goes in to the flavour. And even this one, there's generally a narrative now I saw this morning about Salah. I mean, let's ignore the fact that already he's got the most goal involvements in a single season for Liverpool, overtaking the great Luis Suarez. I mean, that was an unbelievable season. And he's going to break more records, isn't he, Salah? He's now the third highest scorer in Liverpool history. He's level with Sergio Aguero, isn't he, as the import that scored the most goals in the Premier League. So he's going to become the highest import into the Premier League to score the most goals. It's just absolutely incredible what he's done. And what are you getting from the Arsenal fans and everyone else? Penalty merchant. That's the latest one, isn't he? Salah as a penalty merchant. If he didn't have penalties, he would be a nothing player. It's funny that, isn't it? Because remember how Cole Palmer was the greatest player in the Premier League? Who missed a penalty for Chelsea this weekend? Funny that. He hasn't scored for a while for Chelsea. Funny that. And even as those who are on the YouTube can see on the screen, if you look at their respective leagues, and people talk about who's in the Ballon d'Or contendership, Rafinha, who's having a stonking season at Barcelona, by the way. And yet, if you look at their respective leagues and non-penalty goals, Rafinha 12, Mo Salah 18, 1-8. All just funny, isn't it, really? But I am genuinely intrigued what they're going to come out with next, what it's going to be. Even that, I saw a clip this morning as well saying that Anthony Taylor's from Manchester. That's it. How many bad decisions have we had from Anthony Taylor? Just enjoy the whole flavour around the league, and everything that's coming up is all I would say on that, Reds. It is just funny, whichever way you dress it up. And yeah, Red Armchair supporter there. Salah is an everything merchant, but don't tell a certain fan base, eh? However, strangely, we kind of parked the league for a little bit. It's mental to say, isn't it? We are in March and the league's pretty much boxed off already. It is a cup week, both foreign and domestic. I mean, just over 24 hours' time, PSG will come to Anfield. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff on Tuesday night, isn't it, for the second leg? And then the matter of the first silverware of the season. Liverpool will go to Wembley, 4:30. Clever thinking there by the FA and everyone, isn't it? Yeah, 2 teams from the north. So instead of a normal 3 o'clock, we'll move it to 4:30 for things like trains, planes, and automobile madness. I mean, just an aside, but if that goes to extra time, I'm at Wembley. I can't wait for it, but everyone's already thinking like, Christ. But an aside anyway, it's a trophy. It's a huge week for the Reds. And it all becomes a little bit domestic, doesn't it? Because if you beat PSG, and let's be clear, this is one where they've got to come to Anfield. Luis Enrique, I don't know if anyone clocked this, in his press conference this weekend said he rested a few, but a few were talking about a fear and an anxiety of coming to Anfield, which he really didn't like. I love to hear that as well. So they've got to get their mentality right. You know, Anfield is very different to the Parc des Princes with a passionate, fervor at home crowd. Now you're going to get the return. They are still the best team we've played this season, though, if you're generally honest, PSG. So that's one in the thoughts. But the build-up to that will come today. We'll start to move to that. And then probably Wednesday and onwards, whatever happens, we will start to think about the silverware and the trophies and everything that engulfs that. So it is a big cup week, and all the focus is on that. Now, off the field wise, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of quietness, because sometimes when, and I know people say, well, I want contracts sorted, I get all that. But it's the first domestic trophy of the season and a chance to go into the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So maybe just a bit of off-the-field quietness wouldn't go amiss. Although the positive, it's just been announced this morning, isn't it? Liverpool have agreed a new multi-year partnership that will see the sportswear giant Adidas become the club's official kit partner from the 1st of August 2025. Now, we all knew this anyway, that Adidas were coming back, but it is great to see, isn't it? It is really good to see. We've wanted it for a while. We all saw the sort of creation kits, the idea kits people have come up with, but even the leaks for the real ones just look class. And Liverpool are an Adidas club. Let's not pretend. They are absolutely an Adidas club. I'm hoping no one's going to start putting in the comments that they are Nike people. It's Liverpool are that. So everyone's looking forward to it. Little bit of off the field, it's worth mentioning as well with this. Just looking at Paul Joyce's story, he said it's expected to be worth more, i.e. that Liverpool's current deal with Nike is around 30 million, but there's the bonuses based on how they perform, the sales, etc., that this one is expected to go above that, which is even more positive. More money in the coffers hopefully means, and people are going to jump on me for this, more players on the pitch, etc. But it can't be a bad thing at all, can it? So let's hope that's the off-the-field story that dominates for this week. Also, any times and dates for your diary. Even today, it's a busy day, people. So let me set the scene for you. 11 o'clock, we'll have Media Matters with David Lynch. We'll be talking about the game, latest links, all the things that we normally do. 1:15 today, it's the beginning of open training. So that's filmed for the first 15 minutes, isn't it? For the public, the journalists will be there as well. Hoping we see Cody Gakpo back there. That would be a real boost, wouldn't it? In all honesty. This is strange to say. I actually saw Cody Gakpo at the Hot Walk on Saturday. That's a genuinely true story. The details I'm omitting are he wasn't going in the takeaway or going for a noodles or sweet chili chicken. He was just driving past, so he gave a little wave to him. So we knew he wasn't in the lineup there, but that would be a big positive. So 1:15 today. Also, we'll have Stat Me Up 4:45 press conference. So at 5:30, Arne Slot and a player will be up to obviously conduct the press conference, as it always is, 24 hours before for the Champions League. So there's a lot going on, even just today, just in case you want to make a note of any times or plan ahead for you that way. Content-wise as well, we have got you covered. Now, I normally always, Minefield is my sort of not guilty pleasure, but the one I look to. So Alan, don't shout at me. If you're going to listen to one today from the sort of catalogue, Mo Chatra did a full analysis and breakdown of the account. So well worth a listen, that one. You've got your normal things going back from Grizz and Gags, sort of a few tactical analysis bits from Jax and various people. So there's plenty to listen to. But as I said, there's dates and times galore coming up. And if you think about that, because of the double games, we'll have your normal stuff. So we'll have your couple of Raws, we'll have your couple of UPs, we'll have your Trev, even, sorry, with Molby there as well. All your normal shows. I know we've got a couple of transfer market metrics coming as well. Content out the wazoo. Yeah. 3 shows today alone and covered all into this week. Because when it's all said and done, ladies and gents, it's just a little bit different this week. And annoyingly, in one way, it's the last week before internationals. Who the hell schedules internationals at this time of the season? We're trying to win a title here, people. We're trying to pick our dates. We're trying to win trophies, domestic and foreign, international breaks. But that aside, it's a cup week, isn't it? And that is big. That is always big when it's a cup week, because we could have won the Carabao by Sunday evening. We could be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League by close of play Tuesday. At the same time, it might not be those. And also, just to sort of set your watch by, there's 2 games where it could go to extra time. Keep that in mind as well. Fingers crossed it won't. Fingers crossed we're parking the league for this week and going into the rest of the days. We're coming out with a trophy and we're thinking ahead to what might be in Europe. But there we are, ladies and gents. So much to be positive as I read, so much to like. And on Monday, the 10th of March, that was another news round for Anfield Index.